We are live. What is up, Facebook fam, Periscope fam, Stitcher fam, the whole fam bam. It's September 5th, 2017. My name is Lujan, and this is Counterculture. It's episode 15, titled Ending DACA is an Act of Compassion. North Korea is dropping hydrogen bombs in the upper atmosphere. We got Hurricane Irma, potentially a Category 5, hitting Florida. But we're going to talk about immigration. So what could an immigration policy be more important than Category 5 hurricanes and North Korea dropping nuclear bombs? Well, let's begin by explaining what DACA is. So DACA is Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. It was a 2014 immigration policy drafted as an executive order by then President Obama that allowed deferred action on deportation for children that were of illegal, undocumented immigrants into the United States. So they entered the country illegally, their parents did, and the Obama protection essentially assured that they would not be deported or get deferred action on deportation. They'd be able to attend school. They'd be able to get a work permit for jobs. They'd be able to get Social Security benefits, and they'd be able to buy a home. And this was done as an executive order. It's important to understand that President Obama at the time attempted to pass this in different variations legally, keyword legally, through the courts. Because if we all remember our American civics class, the president doesn't pass laws. That's called a king. That's called monarchy. The representatives, the people, are the ones legally empowered to pass laws in this country. And instead, it was shot down multiple times by Congress. It could not pass Congress. So then President Obama in 2014 circumvented Congress, broke the law. Whether you love Obama or hate Obama, any legal scholar, Turley, who's considered a liberal, testified on Congress and admitted he's a constitutional attorney. He's considered liberal and progressive, a Barack Obama supporter, disagreed with Obama's actions due to the fact that it did not follow the law. So what ended up happening today, September 5th, 2017, is that the Obama administration came forward and said, we are going to rescind, we're going to cancel this illegal activity, and we're going to take it back to the courts. We're going to let the courts decide this matter. This is not a matter of the president. The president doesn't pass laws. This is going back to Congress. So what has the reaction been? Well, if you guys don't have Facebook or don't have television or a phone, you wouldn't know that this is actually a bigger deal than a Category 5 hurricane. It's bigger than hydrogen bombs in North Korea. We've seen college students walk out. We've seen protests. We have Nita Chandari, the co-founder of Ultraviolet, a national women's organization, called "This is the latest proof that Donald Trump is a, quote, white supremacist." Kristen Rowe Finkbeiner, executive director of Moms Rising, an online community claiming 1 million moms, has called Trump's decisions to end DACA short-sighted, cruel, and harmful to our nation. Laura Barrett, executive director at Interfaith Worker Justice, says, quote, "It's pure evil." And then, of course, Tom Perez, the director of the Democratic National Committee, and I'll just quote him, quote, "This decision is morally repugnant. It is rooted in prejudice and goes against our most fundamental values. If America is a shining city on a hill, then Donald Trump keeps trying to snuff out the light. As Trump tries to trample on the American dream, Democrats will continue to fight for the immigrant families who contribute to our country every day. That's the American way. If you're with us, pitch in $3 or whatever you can right now." So clearly, if you were paying attention at the beginning of this broadcast, it doesn't appear that there was any indication of white supremacy. It doesn't appear that there was any indication of any particular person of any background or nation of origin was targeted. Essentially, and I'll repeat myself because it's worth repeating, we have to continue to repeat this, The fact of the matter is, in 2012, Obama attempted to pass this. He followed the law and brought it up to Congress. It could not pass Congress. In 2014, then President Obama broke the law and legislated immigration policy by the stroke of a pen through executive order, and said any child of an undocumented immigrant is going to get deferred action on deportation. They're going to be able to buy houses, get Social Security benefits, go to work, go to school. And it doesn't matter what the Constitution says. It doesn't matter what the people say. I, President Obama, want this passed. Now, if you agree with that, you must also admit that it was illegal for Obama to do that. Just because you like something doesn't mean you get to break the law to get it done. There's a reason why that law exists. Unfortunately, a lot of people out there are responding emotionally and saying, this is white supremacy, this is racism, this is morally repugnant. They're painting this picture that immigrants and minorities are going to get deported, and that is wrong because this is their country of origin and they deserve, keyword deserve, to be here. That if your parents brought you here illegally, you deserve to be in this country and you deserve all the benefits of the citizen. Well, that's not actually true. Do we have compassion for people? Absolutely. Should we reform our immigration system? Absolutely. Should we treat people because they're from a different country without compassion? Absolutely not. Following the law is an act of compassion, and that's why I titled this podcast, Ending DACA is an Act of Compassion. Allow me to explain. If we're to define what compassion is, and I'm just going to use Google's definition of compassion. So let me just, again, I don't have a producer, so I'm just going definition of compassion into Google. Sympathetic pity and concern for the sufferings or misfortunes of others. Jeff Sessions, who I'm sure everybody hates, said something very profound that ties into this definition of compassion. And he said that societies where the rule of law is subject to political whims and personal biases tend to become societies afflicted by corruption, poverty, and human suffering. So if we don't follow the law, we're not acting very compassionate. So where am I going with this? So if we just allow DACA to stand and allow the president to create laws and circumvent Congress, number one, we're breaking down democracy. I heard a lot of dreamers on CNN say, this is about democracy. This is about rule of law. Well, Obama broke the law. Obama broke rule of law. He was never allowed by the Constitution to circumvent the law and go past Congress and write his own law as the president. So essentially what President Trump did was he canceled that and sent it back to the courts. Now, one could argue that maybe it's not because he's a skinhead, but maybe because if you talk to legal scholars, you'll understand that DACA was on the same legal pathway as a very similar law that Obama also attempted to illegally put in called DAPA, which gave parents of these children certain privileges. It was shot down by the Fifth Circuit Court for the fact that it could not pass legal muster. So and again, the president has good attorneys. Trust me, he's not necessarily an emotional skinhead as many of those in CNN or Tom Perez of the National Democratic Committee would like you to believe. He's actually surrounded by attorneys, and they advised him, look, if you uphold DACA, you're going to break your campaign promises, because if we all remember, even in his inauguration speech, he promised law and order. He also promised that he was going to be tough on immigration, and he also promised a repeal of a lot of Obama's illegal activity. So when he was pressed to decide what he was going to do with DACA, if he would have upheld that, number one, he would have broke his promises that he made to the country. Number two, it more than likely, according to legal observers, it would have gotten shot down. So it would have been double bad for Trump. He wasn't going to win any friends if he upheld it, because he never would have gotten any credit for it. What ended up happening is that he ended up probably making the decision. Again, I'm just speculating, but we can all agree on certain facts if we're thinking rationally and fairly, that had he upheld it, it would have more than likely gotten shot down in the courts, and he would have disappointed his base, because DAPA, a very similar piece of legislation, faced the exact same fate. It got shot down by the Fifth Circuit Court. So he didn't uphold it, he rescinded it, he canceled it, and gave a 6-month period where he was going to give DHS and all of these federal agencies a chance to decide what they're going to do. So there's a 6-month pause, for these 800,000 people that are affected by DACA, and then allow the legal procedure to take place, which is bringing that to Congress and allowing Congress to pass law, not what Obama did, which was through the stroke of a pen, break the law and unconstitutionally pass an executive order legislating immigration policy. So, is Donald Trump a foaming at the mouth white supremacist? Well, if you believe that, you've probably already turned off this podcast. What Trump has already begun to do is very bad. He actually looks like he may even break his promise again, which I'll come back in episode 16, 17, 18, whatever, and criticize him for it. Again, I just want to deal in the realm of facts, but he's already indicating that he'll review it once it is brought before Congress or during these next 6 months. So Trump seems like he's kind of playing some sort of crazy game. I don't know what he's doing, but I just wanted to kind of walk us through what DACA is and how it was originally passed illegally and the circumstances that President Trump was facing when deciding whether to rescind it or uphold it. So my point is that why is DACA bad to begin with? Because it sure sounds like it's a not very compassionate piece of legislation, that Trump is being very cruel and evil, as many people have said. Well, one could argue that considering that 5 million American young people between the ages of 16 and 34 were unemployed last year, and 50 million more are not even in the labor force, that those jobs, those work permits that were granted to dreamers were jobs that would have gone to 5 million American young people, number one. So where's the compassion for the American citizens who are unemployed? That's more job competition from people who are not actually citizens to people who are citizens. Number two, one could argue that it was a magnet policy for more illegal immigration. I don't see anybody saying, yay, we need more illegal immigration. I think we can all agree that immigration is good. Skilled workers coming from different parts of the country is a very good idea. That's where this country was built upon. But illegal immigration, breaking the law to do it, and sneaking in a couple ISIS jihadis and a couple obese welfare seekers is probably not a good idea for America. So we want to have a sound immigration policy. And what was happening with DACA is one could argue that it was a magnet policy where it was encouraging people in Mexico, in Central America, in other countries to come to the U.S. because they knew that if they brought their kids, their kids were going to be able to receive benefits that were equivalent to those earned by U.S. citizens. So it was a magnet. It was baiting people in. Number two, DACA was a wedge for further amnesty. A lot of immigration policy experts were arguing that this was a foot in the door for full amnesty. That everything in Washington, if you pay attention, is done insidiously, step by step, gradually, until we have their entire goal in place. See, the Democrats and the left aren't just going to throw full-blown amnesty and open borders on day one. They're going to gradually, insidiously ease us up to that, similar to the frog in the cooking pot. He's not going to notice that it's hot if you gradually turn up the heat. If you were to throw him into boiling hot water, he's going to jump out right away. But if you gradually increase the temperature over time, the frog will stay in the pot and die. And that's what's happening in this country. The country was thrown into the pot of illegal immigration, given DACA, then given DAPA, and then eventually we're going to have full amnesty and open borders. And if you don't have a border, you don't have a country. And we want our country. So essentially what DACA was doing was a wedge for further amnesty, and that was bad. And a lot of people who support rescinding DACA aren't doing this out of a heart, oh, because I hate brown people. They're doing it because they understand intellectually, not emotionally, intellectually, that this is a gradual step. So what's going to happen? See, now we're hearing, oh, well, again, playing on our emotions. Let's get past the emotions. 800,000 people are going to get deported, and there are doctors. And Tim Cook released a statement, all these workers here at Apple are DACA, and Microsoft said, we're going to pay for their attorney fees if we deport these people. Newsflash, you cannot deport millions and millions and millions of people. It's just not, it's not possible to round up that many people. Number two, the Trump administration has already stated that there is a priority in which people are getting deported. Illegal aliens who've committed aggravated crimes, those on terror watch lists, those in MS-13, those gangbangers, drug dealers, the people that should be in prison are number one on the docket for deportation. And right there, that's going to take 4 years probably of the Obama administration. Again, I don't know. I'm just speculating. But my point is that it is an unfound fear to even fathom this idea that 800,000 law-abiding citizens who are children of undocumented immigrants are all of a sudden going to get round up within the next couple months or couple years and get deported back to Mexico or to Central America. There is a priority list in which the administration has already rolled out. And if anybody is thinking with their brain and not with their heart, they'll understand that the logistics of rounding up 800,000 law-abiding undocumented immigrants is very difficult, very politically unpopular, and beyond very difficult, nearly impossible. So you're not getting deported. 800,000 people are not going to get picked up tomorrow because of DACA. They're playing on your fears. So that's it, guys. I realize it was a short podcast, but I just wanted to get it out there. Again, a lot of emotion, not a lot of thinking. Trump looks like he's fumbling a little bit, but the reality is that if he would have upheld it, it probably would have got shot down in the courts anyways. And if he would have rescinded it, which he did, it was the legal righting of a legal wrong. Obama passed this illegally, broke from our tradition, circumvented the Constitution, circumvented Congress, pushed this through the stroke of a pen. It attracted more illegal immigration. It created a wedge for more illegal immigration policy, bad policy, more amnesty. And Trump simply said, no, I'm going to send this back to the courts, let Congress decide, which is the legal thing. And he kept his promise with the American people for law and order. But apparently we have a mainstream media and we have people who truly believe that it's wrong to send this back to Congress and let Congress decide. And they've made everybody believe that tomorrow or in the next couple of weeks or couple months that 800,000 people are going to get deported. Not going to happen. Find me on Stitcher. Find me on SoundCloud, iTunes. The podcast is there. Just search my name. Search Counterculture with Aaron Lujan. Everything is at aaronlujan.com. And thank you for watching. Peace.